you'll find it's real hard to do. You own a place, it's yours, and yours is the best judgment out there.
Good evening, everyone. I want to welcome everybody that's here tonight to the November 5th, 2019 Union County Planning Board meeting. Call at order approximately 7:01 p.m. The first thing I'd like to do is establish voting members. We need to recommend one. I'm going to ask someone to nominate Chris in that position tonight. So moved. Thank you very much, Patrick. Do we have a second? Charlie, thank you. All those in favor, raise your right hand.
Aye.
Okay. You also have in front of you the additions, the agenda rather, and we need to add anything, if we need to delete anything, we'd like to have a motion made at this time. If the agenda is approved by everyone, then I'd like the nomination to accept it as presented.
I'll move so, accept this
Thank you,
tonight.
Lee. Have a second? Thank you, Wilson, for a second. All those in favor, raise your right hand.
Aye.
Okay. We have, next on the agenda is item number 5, that's approval of the minutes. We have 2 months to approve tonight. First is September 11th, 2019 minutes. I would like for everybody, if you've not had a chance to look at those, and we will ask for any changes, additions, deletions, or approval as submitted. Russell made the nomination to approve and submitted to the September 11th, 2019 meeting. Do you have a second? Thank you, Patrick. Appreciate that. All those in favor of approval, raise your right hand.
Aye.
Okay. Let's go now to the October 1st, 2019 minutes. You have those in front of you. Are there any changes, additions, deletions to be made, or will there be an approval made to accept as submitted?
I'll motion to approve them, Don.
Chris, thank you. Motion to approve by Chris. Do we have a second? As submitted, excuse me. Louis, thank you. Appreciate that. All those in favor, raise your right hand.
Aye.
Okay. We're moving through this pretty fast now.
Yes, sir.
Number 6, we're to the CZ 2019012 Potter Road Animal Kennel. Let me make a couple of comments before we get started on this. We know some citizens in the audience. If any of you choose to speak for or against this, we hope you'll sign in on the sign-in sheet if there is one up there. Thank you, Dick. Appreciate that. And we ask that all the comments tonight to the board, to the staff, be made in a civil manner, and the board will respond in a civil manner as well. We've had some get out of hand, and we're trying to not let that happen. So with that, you're on, sir.
Thank you.
Appreciate it, Lane.
The working title for this rezoning request is CZ 2019-012, it's the Potter Road Animal Kennel. So this is a request to amend our zoning map for Union County. The request is specifically to change a parcel of land from R40, which is residential, 40,000 square foot minimum lot size, to RA40 conditional, which is residential agricultural, 40,000 square foot minimum lot size, conditional district. The applicant makes this request in order to build a commercial animal kennel on the property beside his house. The uses on the site, if the rezoning request if it was approved, would be the animal kennel, a parking area to accommodate the new kennel facility, and the existing house, and of course all driveways and storage buildings and things like that. And since this is a conditional request, the district will be bound by all the conceptual plans and conditions that would be approved as part of the process. This is the site plan that was submitted by the applicant. I think this was in your agenda packets. As you can see, this is along Potter Road. If you'll remember, maybe a couple of months ago, maybe back in September, I think, there was a request for a fairly large neighborhood on Potter Road called Crestwind.
Yeah.
This is just to the south of that, just to kind of give you an idea of where this is. So if you're kind of familiar with Potter Road, it's just north of Newtown. It's on the west side of Potter Road. It's a fairly large piece of property. I believe it's about 7.5 acres. And as you can see here, there's Potter Road. There's their driveway coming off of Potter, the existing house and their garage, and have a shed a little bit to the south. As you enter their driveway, they would bring a new access off their existing driveway to accommodate the parking area and the proposed kennel facility. It is a good distance off the property lines. The closest setback would be about 107 feet off the property line. That rear right there is about 219 feet. These are some photographs of the site. So this is standing in Potter Road, looking into down their driveway. So you can see it's actually a fairly heavily wooded site, and I think most of those trees, except for the clearing that would have to take place for the kennel itself, would remain. So the visual impact to the neighbors would be fairly minimal. Again, these are shots looking north and south down Potter Road, and this is a shot looking across the street. So see, the view in this area is fairly rural, heavily treed. This is the property in question that's highlighted in black. The property I was talking about before with the neighborhood is to the north, kind of where my cursor is sort of hovering over. Most of these tracts around in this general area are fairly large tracts of property. Again, as you can see, this is it's a large tract. There's one house on the property with some accessory structures. This is just sort of a map that shows kind of a mashup of the zoning. So you've got a mix of RA40 and R40 in this area. So this just kind of shows that everything that's in this area is R40 density, so it's 1 unit per acre. So it's a fairly low density development pattern. Their house kind of sits up. The ridge is kind of on Newtown. It's fallen off this way a little bit, but kind of sits up pretty high. There's no major environmental features on their property. Again, to the north, you've got a fairly large, I think that's Molly Branch, fairly large stream that flows through the area. But on this particular property that's in question, there's no major environmental features. I also want to note that as part of this request, as part of in preparation, we did have the applicant go ahead and go talk to the folks at Environmental Health about where their septic system is, and could this use accommodate what could their system and accommodate the use. We don't like to bring things to the board that if the board approves it and then they go talk to the health department and the health department says, well, no, you can't do this. So we always have them do that up front. So that's all been sort of vetted out. They've talked to building code, understand how this is about to be a commercial building. They actually went so far, I think they have plans actually designed for the building. I think those are in your packets as well. As far as transportation goes, these areas are shown as all 2-lane roads in the future with paved shoulder. A lot of these don't have paved shoulders now. None of those the paved shoulders are not funded projects, but they are all 2-lane roads. There's only one traffic count in the area, and that was on Newtown Road. It's about 4,500 trips a day, and that was based on 2018 ADT numbers. And we actually had a counter placed near the site of the rezoning. It was a little bit to the north. We actually placed it for the Crestwind rezoning request, and that was Union County Planning's traffic counters. We went out and placed those, and we got a count of 4,100 trips a day along Potter Road. So that was a fairly recent, just maybe a month ago, count along Potter. The utilities in the area are kind of a mix. You've got some stuff like this neighborhood across the street. This is Winding Creek. This is served by Union County Public Water and Sewer. The Crestwind neighborhood, which was approved by the board, that will be served by Union County Public Water and Sewer. But then you have some properties like this that are on septic systems. So it is a little bit of a, there's a little bit of everything going on out here. But this particular property is on septic.
Is that county water?
I'm sorry?
Is that county water?
Yes, yes. The land use plan, excuse me, calls for, it's kind of on the edge. It is in the single-family residential area, and this kind of line that comes through here is the mixed residential. Single-family designation anticipates single-family homes on individual lots. The plan anticipates that some low-density and light commercial uses may be deemed appropriate. So that's where this board comes into play. If you deem it appropriate at this location, then that would be fine. Staff comments. The primary use of the property now is a single-family residence. That's what's on the property at 7.4 acres. Based on the size of the lot, the owners could have up to 175% of the square footage of their house designated as accessory structures. Now, those are residential accessory structures like storage buildings, garages, things like that. This will allow them to have approximately 3,557 square feet of accessory buildings. The existing detached garage and the new kennel would be pretty close to that number. We didn't figure it up exactly, but we kind of did some rough estimates, and that would be pretty close to what they could do as accessory structures. Granted, this is a business. Based on that and the fact that the single-family residential area does anticipate some light commercial uses, and due to the size of the property, being that it's 7.5 acres, and the fact that it has some fairly large, fairly treed, and those trees are going to stay except with the exception of where they clear for the kennel itself. Staff felt like that this is an appropriate use of the property. This is a way to kind of keep the property, it's fairly large, 7.5 acre property, but allow the folks that the applicants to be able to have some business use. We also felt like the fact that they were going to be also living on the property, because I know a lot of times with kennels you get a complaint about barking dogs and things like that. What we've noticed a lot of times in RA 40 districts, this is a special use permit, so that you wouldn't even see these requests. This would come to the Board of Adjustment. And a lot of times with the board, the question comes up, well, what about barking, things like that. And a lot of times when the owner actually lives on the same property, that's pretty easily addressed because they don't want to listen to a barking dog either. But since this is currently zoned R40, it's not allowed in R40. They're seeking this conditional rezoning request to be able to do this. I'll be happy to answer any questions. The folks that are here are the applicants, so they probably want to speak and make a short presentation.
Lee, why is this not a special use permit? I realize this is a CZ, but why not a special use? I'm being honest.
Sure.
I'm not for or against at this point. I'm just making a statement.
Sure. In R40, so it's that difference between R40 and RA40. So in RA40, you can do an animal kennel with a special use permit. In R40, that's not an option.
Okay.
So that's why they're seeking to rezone it to RA40 conditional. If the Board of Commissioners approves the rezoning, we actually have some language in the ordinance where if the board approves a conditional rezoning request to something that requires a special use permit, they don't they're not gonna have to go through a special use process if they get it rezoned to RA40 conditional. Once it's approved by the Board of Commissioners, it's approved. You don't have to go in any extra steps. So, does that answer your question? Okay.
Any other questions for Lee? Okay, thank you, Lee.
You're welcome.
Would the applicant like to come forward and make any comments or anything? We'd love to hear from you. State your name and your address, please.
David Winchester, 1302 South Potter Road, Monroe 28110. Lee covered everything pretty well. Well, actually, really good. It sounded real good for me. But y'all have got the prints, the layout, the elevations, and the diagram of the kennel.
If you wanna bring those up, I've got those on a flash drive if you wanna talk about them at all.
Do they have it already?
It
But
should
be.
if you've got it in your folder, you can look at it at your convenience.
Pull that mic a little bit closer to you. Raise it up a little bit.
Can you hear me now? Okay. You should have all the drawings, what were required in your folder there. So we're decided to do something like this for our future. And so we realized we're going to have to go through a zoning request with you guys just in order to accommodate the kennel. And so that's just something, I just retired this past year. And so I'm looking for the future and want some good use of my property because I've been paying property taxes on it for like 30 some odd years. So I want to get some good out of it in the future. And so that's what we're trying to do at this time, to allow a home for dogs and give us something to do during the daytime, especially me. So whatever you can do for us, I'd appreciate it. If you have any questions, I'll be glad to ask it.
Excuse me, y'all gonna raise dogs?
No, sir. We're not a breeding kennel. We just have a lot of friends that have dogs. We've loved dogs our whole life. And we want to do something, you know, because we always love dogs out there in our area. It's a very rural area. I've heard that when people heard that we were going to try to do this, especially Richard, that's on the commissioners, he said, please try to get this thing going. I won't have to take my dog all the way to Indian Trail or Matthews when I need to go out of town. But my wife works in the school system, and she knows all these people that's in this area that's not necessarily native to Union County, and they know when they have to go home on the holidays, they have to find somewhere to board the dog. So we figure we won't be too short on customers if we can get everything in order.
Any other questions?
Have you propositioned the neighbors, gotten any feedback from them in terms of noise, barking?
Yes,
that
yes,
sort
we
of
had
thing?
our community meeting at the church right above our house a few weeks back. And so we had 7 of my closest neighbors that came over and, you know, commented that they had our blessings. There was no problem that was, brought up.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there a dog run where they can go out and
Yes, sir, we've got,
extend?
no, sir, yes, sir. We're going to clear the backside behind the kennel where they can have like a day run or daycare. And the dogs have, I think, we're going to figure out about 15,000 feet back there fenced in so they can play during the day. They're going during the daytime like a daycare when people can drop it off during the day when they go to work and don't have to worry about them being home and being crated all day long. And so especially we might have a few overnight guests. We hope that will grow, but you know, still again, that's to be seen. But we've got accommodations are going to have accommodations from our drawings for 28 areas for the dogs to sleep in at night. I don't necessarily want to call them kennels, crates, or pens because they're going to be concrete quarters for the dogs to stay and sleep in.
Have you done a business plan on this project?
As far as,
A written business plan?
no, sir.
With the financials and all that?
We're just praying that it all gonna come out all right. When you go in this deep, you see there's swim or drown, so we haven't done that. I've got a good gentleman that's drawing up our plans for us, and he's the one that helped me submit these to you guys. And he's doing the final takeoffs as far as our plumbing plans, so we can have that. I think that's needed for the commissioners, correct? So he's doing the final step, so we have that finalized whenever we have our next meeting. But,
The reason I ask that question is I'm affiliated with a group in Charlotte called Charlotte Score.
mhm.
And the main objective is not to have anybody lose any money. There's a lot of good ideas out there, but we figure out how many, dogs you have to board a month to make a profit and things like that? That's what I'm asking.
Yes, sir.
Done any of that yet?
No, sir. I've just always, I've been in my business, been in my own business since '84. I haven't gone under yet, but still, again, when '08 hit, that was the end of that business, so.
Just asking.
Yes, sir, that's fine. I'll just cross my fingers when we get there.
Anybody else got any questions?
These indoor kennels, do they have exits out the back of them?
No, sir. No, everything's,
Take the dog out and
yeah, we'll have to take the dog out through the community room and go out in the back. There's a back porch on the unit. That's a covered shed on the back. We're gonna be the ones that let them out so they can get out into the back play area. That was one of the questions that I had. Did they have indoor, outdoor runs? So it says, no, the building is enclosed. The only way out the building is through the back as we take them outside.
Your smoke detectors inside the kennels?
Yes, sir.
Any other questions for Mr. Winchester from the board?
Where does the waste go?
We'll pick it up and dispose of it in the garbage and have that picked up.
I have one question.
Yes,
Is there any licensing sanitation-wise or otherwise for a dog kennel?
There is a license. I have to apply for I looked at it the other night. I really can't remember the wording of it, but you do have to be licensed for a kennel.
I mean, license paying for a license, or you have to be trained to run a kennel? I'm just curious here.
No, sir. From what I understand, there's no training involved other than just common knowledge, how to care for animals.
Okay.
But you do have to have a license
Okay.
through the state of North Carolina.
Yeah.
Basically, it's just a.
It's just a tax, they get money with it.
A place where people can discard their dogs if they don't want them.
I don't want that to happen. Yes, daycare or boarding kennel.
Any other comments or questions? Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Anyone else in the audience who'd like to speak?
This is my family.
Pardon?
This is my family. This is my daughter and son-in-law.
Well,
In case there's any questions about
they're gonna
dogs.
put you to work, right?
Yep.
That's what I figured.
I'm gonna let them evaluate dogs as they come in, so that's not a problem.
Well, at this time, we'll close the public comments on this agenda item. Is there any discussion at the board level that we need to discuss as a board? Russell? Anything? Anything, comments you want to make? Charlie? Edward? Edward?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
I'll look at the land, I've driven past there. There'll be no, as I see it, there will be no problem with being any kind of eyesore from the road. And of course, everybody's got to make a living. God knows, I've been one of those guys my whole life. And it appears to be a neat thing, but what I like about it best is this particular area around Potter Road. We had that last thing, a lot of concerns about the traffic on it for that old folks home they were putting out there. Well, this guy's got a kennel here. What he's gonna be doing is he's gonna be satisfying the neighbors of what they require. Otherwise, they would be driving greater distances to go put their dogs somewhere else. So I would say this kind of stuff does in fact tend to reduce the traffic because it keeps everybody pretty self-sufficient and make it a short run rather than a run to another city. So I think it would be a benefit for the county as well as for him and his family. 2 cents.
Christopher?
I just want to know how quickly you can get up and running. I'm looking for Christmas plans, so help me out. I got 2 pups.
Been on this thing since May, but it's, you know how progress is, and 1 step, 3 steps back.
You got enough room in your bedroom. It's fine. Fine. Bring them over.
I want it as soon as, I've had friends in South Carolina said, when you gonna be up? You'll be up at a holiday, 'cause that's where you get a lot of traffic.
Sure.
I said, we can't get it started. Lee knows how many times we've called him. Ramona's knows how many times we've been begging her, is when you gonna get out here? So we got everything in order. Now we gotta do this step right here, then there's another step, and then I'd love to get something done. It's been a dry summer we've ever had. watch it rain all day long. Can't get enough.
So you can start in your house and get practice.
Yeah.
Oh, boy,
I'll convert my living room.
that's good. Okay,
I have one question. Inside the kennel, there's drains in the floor,
Yes, sir.
so they're just gonna be like washed out, washed down into the drains? Where does that go then?
Still on? We had that question when I was talking environmental. They asked me how that was going to work. And what I have looked at, a veterinarian center in Albemarle, because the gentleman that's helping me build this, he designed that one over there. There are individual drains in each stall to wash out, but they're washed out in a drain that I'm going to design that goes out into like a piping, and it goes off down the property. It's what they call daylighted, because you cannot put disinfectant that's in the kennel into the sewer, because as Ramona said, it kills the sewer. So they do have to pick up the poop, whatever you want to do with it, and then wash it out, and it goes out, and it's daylighted on the property.
Ramona is, she's an environmental health specialist with our health department.
I'm sorry, I didn't
No, that's
verify. I
fine.
thought everybody knew who Ramona was in this neighborhood.
They might, I just wanted to.
Okay. Yes.
So that won't, I noticed like some of the adjoining properties they look like ponds or something. It's not gonna affect their ponds or anything?
No, sir, there's no ponds anywhere around us that I'm aware of. There's one way down Newtown Road, but that's, my property kind of drains off into just drainage area, and there's no way it can get to that pond back there. The closest thing there is Molly Creek, and it's probably about, a quarter of a mile north of me, and it would be absorbed in the ground before you even thought about getting to the creek.
And that's environmental health requirement.
Yeah.
That when you build something like this, you either have to design
It's almost like a leaching field.
you either have to design you either have to design a really specific septic system if you want to wash everything down the drain, it's really expensive, or you pick it up and dispose of it in the trash can. And I don't think I've ever, the years I've been here, we've had a lot of kennels that's come to the Board of Adjustment. I don't think we've ever had one that put in a septic system. Much trouble.
Any further
any
questions?
other
Thank you.
questions? Winchester.
That's good.
Thank you,
Okay,
sir.
thank you.
Appreciate your time tonight. Is there any other discussion with the board here amongst ourselves or anything we need to talk about? If not, I'd like to ask for a motion to either approve or disapprove.
I make a motion,
Take a vote.
make a motion, we approve CZ 2019 012 Potter Road Animal Kennel.
Motion's been made to approve this proposal. We have a second.
Second.
Patrick, thank you. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Okay. Got it. Lee, do you want to talk about Board of Commissioners?
So I think we talked about it, but this will go for a public hearing at the first Board of Commissioners meeting in December. They usually hold a public hearing at that first meeting. Their general process is first meeting, public hearing, second meeting, decision. If there's no opposition at that first meeting, you can ask for them to consider it that night. Most of the time.
Do you need any more friends, like to say, appendix B or anything like that?
Got everything in digital format, so we're really good.
So that's all you need on it?
We're good.
Thank you for your time.
Thanks,
Appreciate
guys.
your coming in. Good luck with it.
December 2nd. That'll be at 6 o'clock.
Trying to keep it short for you guys tonight, and get home, relax a little bit. Thank you very much.
Night.
Have a happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda is the planning staff report.
Just update you on the comp plan process. As you know, I think last time we talked, the application for committees was open. So that was open for a month. We got around 140 applications, which is amazing. That's a lot of people applying for those positions. That was a really good, it exceeded our expectations by a long shot. Tells us that there's a lot of interest out there in the project. Right now, want on these committees. We're not sure when we might get that information back. We're hoping that those appointments can be made on the 18th, on November the 18th. If they are, our plan is to go ahead and get with those committees, meet with them, find out, get a regular meeting schedule established, and go ahead and start the process. We have to wait until those committee appointments are made. I got a couple of things on here. Any questions about the comp plan and where we are right now? Before I move on? Okay. In the next few months, we are, I'd say the next 6 months, we're probably gonna be bringing a series of text amendments to the board. This past summer, I think, maybe it was spring, the legislature adopted what they call, we refer to as 160B. What they did, they took the city planning statutes and they took county planning statutes and pushed them together and made one cohesive document out of it. And it was actually a good idea because you had a lot of stuff that had been, it kind of become a Frankenstein document over the years because stuff had been added. So they took it, they clarified it, made one cohesive document out of it. There are gonna be some text amendments that we have to make over the coming months to our ordinance. What our plan is, they've got different effective dates that are outlined in the statute. What we would like to do is get out in front of that. We already know what those, generally what those text amendments are. School of Government is gonna be having some training sessions coming up in the probably January, February timeframe. We're gonna go to those, we're gonna draft these text amendments. In order to be out in front of it, we don't wanna be caught behind the 8 ball on any of this stuff, so we're gonna go ahead and bring them to you guys, bring them to the board, and just get those approved and have the effective dates set in the future to when those things actually become effective. We don't wanna be scrambling at the last minute trying to get any of this stuff done, because we wanna keep our ordinance in compliance with state law. And any questions on that? One last thing, in the budget, that was adopted in July, we got a new position. We got an entry-level, planner position. And we have made an offer and extended that offer, so hopefully, she will be starting in January. And we can bring her to meet you guys.
Good. Anything else?
That's it.
Dick? With that, any comments, closing comments from any member of the board? Nope.
Happy Thanksgiving, everyone.
You're good? All right. Better?
Happy Thanksgiving, everybody.
Happy Thanksgiving, everybody. Seriously, safe travels if you're going out of town. Thank y'all for being here. It's good to be record time, yeah. Meeting adjourned.
Oh, by the way,